Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the PHNX Suns Podcast. I'm Lindsay Smith here with Saul Bookman, Gerald Bourget, and Espo. And yes, Espo and Saul did text each other this morning asking what they were wearing to work today.
I'm wearing an AFC Richmond shirt, and he's wearing a
Kyler Murray shirt.
Well,
he
kind of looks like Kyler.
Could not be more polar opposite. And also, you guys are wearing black. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but it's totally different vibes.
No, it's not. It's the
you
same
guys
black.
are literally wearing t-shirts.
I'm wearing shorts.
It's the red t-shirt. I'm
Short
just
sleeve
saying.
shirt, long sleeve shirt. Pants, shorts.
If you were ever going to say two people looked similar in their outfits, it would be the two of you versus me and Gerald.
Well,
and
because
you
you're
guys
a
would
girl
win
and
100%
he's a
of the time.
guy.
Also, because this is not a t-shirt, it's a shirt, a blouse.
It's a like.
So
Nobody would ever confuse Espo and I.
I'm not saying that they would confuse the two of you. I'm saying you're dressed like twins.
she's just jealous. We look this good in red
It's true.
shirts,
It's
and
true.
she has to wear a black
She
shirt
can't pull
all
off
the time.
red. I just know this.
Wow. I think the larger point that we're missing is if you were wondering who we as a team are cheering for in the NBA Finals, you have your answer right here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Hey,
There you go.
hey,
There you go.
There you go.
the heat is on.
Subliminal messaging.
Who'd have thought? I'm telling you, you guys did text each other this morning. You planned this all out. The
heat
NBA
is
Finals
on.
do tip off tonight. It's the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat. Listen, I know a portion of Suns fans out there. I don't know if they are genuine in saying this, but there have been quite a few who are like, I'm not watching this finals. I refuse to watch this finals. Y'all are watching, right?
Yeah. I mean, as much as I can I currently do not have Wi-Fi, so that would be tough, but I'm going to try and watch it.
I mean, it's on ABC.
Yeah,
Get
but
them
we don't
rabbit
have-
ears out.
Yeah.
Get you an
Just
antenna
get your
box.
digital
Just
antenna
get an
box.
antenna.
You're good.
I don't know. Our cable line is like messed
You don't
up.
need a
You don't
cable
need a cable
line.
line for digital
Just
antenna.
Yeah,
It's old school, Gerald.
it is.
Yeah,
You just gotta go old school with it.
connect
You
it
just
to your
plug
TV.
it in.
You
Boom.
just put it on your
And then
stand.
bloop, bloop, bloop,
Like
bloop.
my grandfather's
It's like
house
magic.
back in the day.
It's
Yeah.
literally magic.
Yeah, and it's free.
Literal
It's
magic.
not literally magic. She
So
said that so seriously. It's magic. It's literally
It's
magic.
sorcery.
Like, no, it's not. It's
Yes, it
technology.
no, it's literally magic. Who are you guys going to be rooting for in this one?
I think the Nuggets are going to sweep them,
Okay.
but I'm rooting like hell for the Miami Heat. I want Jimmy Butler to be the most significant player in NBA history. And I just want to say the Nuggets had the ultimate choke job of all time because I do believe, are the most favored team to win a championship in NBA history, according to gambling odds.
Okay. Like based on the finals matchup?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm rooting for Denver.
Yeah, okay.
Look, I'm of the mindset that if you're going to lose to the eventual champion. And the Suns have done that 14 other times, I believe. So they've done it a lot, and I'm okay with that though because at least you lost to the best team. Last year left such a bitter taste in my mouth because you knew that the Dallas Mavericks were a freaking joke. You knew that they were not better than the Phoenix Suns. But with what the Nuggets are doing, you go, all right, they just ran into a better team. And if they close it out and they win the championship, I feel much better about that. Plus, you know what? As much crap as we give the DMVR people, I actually do want them to be able to enjoy
Not
some
first.
success.
And that's where he
Not
loses me.
first.
Why?
And that's where he
Why?
listen.
You want your big sister or big brother to always get the first thing.
It's not even
No,
just
I don't
about-
want hand-me-downs.
It's
I
not
want to be
even-
the first one.
It's not even just about that. As much as I love the DVR peeps, I love Eric, I love Adam, I love the whole crew, right? I did not forget that after we got eliminated last year, they dedicated a whole open to our demise.
They
A
danced
whole
on our graves.
Open. They danced on our graves. Hell no, I don't want them to win their championship before us. No.
This is the sibling rivalry.
Yes.
This has to be the peak of it, especially if they lose. And then after this, then we can be like best bud siblings. You know what I
Yes.
mean? You know how every like set of siblings has that like you are enemies and then you become best friends?
As
That's
the
what
great
this is.
as the great Dr. King said, darkness does not
Oh my God. I just
run out darkness.
Yeah,
Now you guys
first
are
of all-
just throwing me out.
First of all,
Yo,
he
you're
articulated it far better than whatever
laughing,
that was.
More eloquently. But I mean, look, why our hate towards them is not going to make anything better. So I might as well go, you know what? I want something good to happen to you.
Listen, if
I'm not, and you know what? If they go ahead, and it's not secondhand, right? It's not like they're dating the Larry O'Brien trophy. They go, here's our sloppy seconds. It's not like that.
I'm still stuck on, as the great Dr. King once said, fumble, 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 fumble.
He says the great Dr. King said, darkness is that.
As the great Dr. King says, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. That's the quote. You guys started laughing and I lost my train of thought.
I did not expect a Martin Luther King quote to come out of you. That's why it just threw me way off guard. Oh, Jesus.
I'm sorry.
Listen, if they win the championship, I will be happy for them, but I don't want them to win the championship.
What are you saying? If they lose to Miami, we're gonna dance on their grave?
Oh yeah!
Oh my God!
Oh, I will skip to my loo all around this set.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'll join in on that. But I'm not gonna be downtrodden if they win. Because you know what? It helps the company, and in the end, I just want money in my pocket. That's what I'm saying.
Wow! In back-to-back days, we've quoted Dr. Seuss, Dr. King.
Look at that.
Yo,
All about doctorates, baby.
That's a little different there.
We've talked about Doc Rivers. It's all doctors around here.
Oh my God!
He said
Yo.
as a great time.
There was
mascara's gonna
something
be
in
ready.
there about your point about being the bigger person. I
Yes,
think.
and you guys weren't. God.
Oh my God!
I try to bring some culture, some historical reference, some insight, and you all just crap on it.
use my people against me, culture, Esmo.
But we're twins, Saul. We're twins today.
Holy shit!
Oh my
Jesus.
God. You guys.
Wow.
I literally, this week has been so ridiculous. This week's shenanigans, I feel like, have topped all the shenanigans that we've had on this show.
We're only into week 3 of the offseason.
Goodness gracious. All right, can we kind of go back and legitimately have a real conversation about this now?
We can try.
So your team Heat, your team Nuggets, Gerald.
I think the Nuggets are going to win in 5, but I feel like a lot of people are dismissing the Heat a little too easily, and they beat 2 teams that would be favored in this series against Denver, if we're speaking from a betting standpoint. So I don't want to count the Heat out. I still think the Nuggets have been the most impressive team in the playoffs in terms of what we've seen from their actual play. And to your point, Lindsay and I argued about who we were rooting for, Nuggets versus Lakers, and I made the same point that it doesn't make you feel better, but it marginally a little bit better if you lose to the team that knocked you, that won
Do
it
you
all.
believe that, Saul?
What?
Do you buy that if the Nuggets win because they knocked us out, that it makes you feel better? Do you guys genuinely
no.
believe yourselves when you say that?
A
Or
little
is it
bit.
just like, I'm saying it to say it
No.
because it should make me feel better? Because I don't feel any better.
Only if no, it wouldn't make me feel better because the logic behind why the Suns lost to the Nuggets was that we just didn't have enough time, right? So we were the better team. In all other instances, when listen, I'm about to get a lot of shit for what I'm about to say.
Okay.
I don't feel like if the Suns had a whole season with KD and Devin Booker, that the Nuggets would have necessarily been the better team. I just don't believe that. So because of that, I don't have any feelings about Denver winning. Also, it's the fans. It's just the fans. We're both on equal footing. They've never been to a finals. They got to their first finals. I sure don't want them to win it before us. I just don't.
Look, for me, if they win in 4 or 5, you look at it and you can say the Suns were the only ones that got 2 games off of them in the playoffs. Does it make me feel wonderful about things? Hell no. But it makes me go, all right, the Suns, if they had KD for more than those 10 games going into the playoffs, likely are on the same level, if not better than the Nuggets based on what we saw. And the Nuggets went on to win the championship. So it makes me feel a little bit better going into next year that the Suns are right there if you tweak a few things, and you could be at the top of the mountain.
It's a consolation prize because, like you said, last year when they lost to the Mavericks, there was just no excuse for it, and it was like we lost to a team that we were worse than, definitively worse than. And this season, you can make the case if they had a full season with KD, those teams are on pretty even ground. And if you lose and the Nuggets go on to win it all in like 4 or 5 games, then you're like, okay, maybe we weren't as far from a championship as it felt like when we were down 30 at half to this team in elimination game 6. It doesn't make you feel better about that, but it is kind of your consolation as you head into this summer. Like, okay, we can build a title contender around these two if things break our way and we build out the roster correctly.
And if they win, we can say fraudulent championship because you beat a bunch of 7 and 8 seeds other than the Phoenix Suns. So just like they would say, everybody was injured when the Suns made the finals.
I do want to have a small conversation about that. And I'm not trying to throw shade here, but that is already happening towards the Nuggets from other fan bases around the league. And I saw somebody, I don't remember if it was a DNVR guy or just somebody on Twitter, probably not random, it was probably a bigger name, but asking why no other team has ever been talked about in that way leading up to a finals, like a team that hasn't won it before. Like the whole excuses basically, was the easiest path to the finals, the easiest path to a championship. And I'm like, well, they definitely did that to us when we made it to the finals. Then you had Bucks fans in the comment being like, yeah, hey, hi. They did that to us too.
They did it in the bubble.
To the Lakers in the bubble.
Yep.
So I'm just
you get what you put out.
Like, it just seems like one of those things where every fan base goes through that and every fan base is on the other side of it. It's just why do we pretend like it doesn't happen sometimes?
But what I will say to defend Denver people is that I would agree. And listen, as a Suns fan, we have not gotten the love, at times that we feel like we deserve. But I do feel like, and this is just from watching, all the hot take shows and stuff, I genuinely do feel like the Denver Nuggets as a team have been completely disrespected and overlooked, like to a degree that I just can't really fathom. I mean, there's just straight up just errors going on to besmirch what the Nuggets have done. Whereas I feel like with the Suns, we just weren't talked about. Like they weren't making shit up. They'd rather talk about LeBron or they'd rather talk about Steph or whatever instead of Devin Booker. And I think they're doing the same thing. And it's kind of wild because they do have the 2-time MVP, could have been 3, and they do have the best team in basketball right now. And they should win the championship, but instead they're constantly talking about everything else. So I can see it.
Part of that's their own doing, though. They played into this. We're the underdog. You were the number 1 seed. You were spectacular throughout the regular season. You have the 2-time MVP. Don't give me this bullshit that you're the underdogs. You were the prohibitive favorite in a lot of ways for. When you look at your roster, when you look at what you've done, and you look at the path you had. So don't act like you're some underdog, especially when you're going in against the Heat and you're favored by Vegas. Don't give me this crap. They've played into it, and the media has leaned into it because it's this whole song and dance now about it.
Yeah, I mean, for the basketball goer, they should have been favored in pretty much every series. Maybe not ours because we were pretty split on how we felt that series would go. I think most of us leaned towards the Suns, obviously, but there were, like, betting wise, I don't think they were favored in our series. I'm not sure if they were favored in the Lakers series. They are favored in the Heat series, and that's because the betting odds have not adjusted to what the Heat have done in the playoffs. So I get it from that perspective, but like looking at betting odds is not the way to determine this kind of stuff to me.
No.
And I feel like also the discourse in general around NBA stuff needs to change because a lot of the stuff that's come out, like we saw Chris Mannix talk about how the Nuggets are not an interesting team to cover.
Yeah,
and I'm just kind of like, why? Because there's no drama, because their star is just a guy who kind of puts his head down and likes to hoop. Like,
because some people are lazy and don't want to look for the actual storylines and
Right.
just want to harp on the same
they
shit
just
that
want
they always
Lakers,
do.
Celtics part 17 or whatever the
You
fuck it is.
also
Like,
have to understand, though, they are taking orders, if you will, from the powers that be. And the powers that be want the clickbaity stuff. They want that low-hanging fruit. And that's always going to be Lakers and things of that nature and drama. That shit pops off every single time because it relates to a whole nother group of people that are casual NBA fans or fans of the sport, but they don't have the diehard aspect to them. And there's no shade to that group of people because they also bring something valuable to the NBA, their eyeballs, their dollars. So I get it from that perspective, which again, when we have that conversation, if you are looking for that team specific content, that in-depth type of stuff, you got to find your community to get that.
Yeah, Mannix doesn't say that though if he doesn't believe it. I don't think that him in particular wasn't my bosses are telling me to do this. There was a conviction
there's
to what he
buy-in
said.
from people when you work for those type of places too. You have to be committed to what it is that your job is asking you to do.
But that's the difference between people that are in this to be talking heads and to be entertainment figures and the people that are actually like real journalists who are covering the story, which is what you're supposed to do. Like there's plenty of interesting things from a basketball standpoint about this matchup. I'm excited for this finals. I kind of preferred it to having another Lakers-Celtics showdown. So I don't know. I just feel like as a whole, like if you look at the NBA compared to the NFL, if a team makes a run to the Super Bowl, that's interesting. Like you find stories about that team that make it interesting. And I feel like the NBA is more hesitant to do that because if it's not a major market team or a team with LeBron or with KD or whoever, it's for some reason the NBA media has a harder time making something.
It's the extrovertish superstar is the thing, right? And Jokic is not that guy. He's never been that guy. He's the opposite of that for sure. Jamal Murray isn't really a walking soundbite either. Like he's a good player. He talks, but it's not until the playoffs. Really, this playoffs, he didn't really pop off much. You know what I'm saying? And so, and the NBA does gravitate towards people that are magnets for views. They just do, like Ja Morant hasn't accomplished shit in this league. Like he's gone to the All-Star game a couple of times. Cool. But he's a magnet. Like, and if he made it to the finals, he'd be the talking point as well. And so it's just one of those things. Devin Booker's literally has suffered from that same thing. He's not really that dude that will go out of his way to say some off the wall shit. Devin Booker isn't. No,
the biggest press conference headline he's made is not showing up at the press conference.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why the Suns sometimes at times get overlooked as well. And so I get it. I don't agree with it at all. I think, Denver definitely deserves their flowers for what they've done so far this season and what they might do here in the finals. But I am rooting for Jimmy Butler because I do think that the Miami Heat present us a variety of different issues for the Nuggets that they haven't quite seen so far in this playoff. I think Eric Spoelstra will do his damnedest to take advantage of weaknesses that he believes are there with the Nuggets. They will change up their defensive lineups, going from man to zone on multiple different occasions. They will give the Nuggets more than they can handle in terms of a variety of different looks and matchups. And they're going to make Denver work. And I think, but that doesn't mean that Denver's not going to be able to overcome that at all. They got Jokic. Eddie Johnson today talked about the fact that Miami is probably really going to be focused on pushing Jokic more to the block as opposed to up high, because if he's up high, he can see the whole court, and that's when he can destroy you. But when he's down low on the block, it limits his vision and it limits his playmaking ability, and his percentages go down because of that, which I didn't even realize until he pointed it out. So it's going to be a fascinating series. And I will say to Colts 23, who said it in the chat, this is one of the more intriguing matchups in the NBA Finals that we've had in quite some time. I would say even going back to just the Suns Bucks, because it was two fresh teams that hadn't been in the finals for quite a long time. So I'm excited for it.
Well, and you either get a first-time champion, which is always a fun storyline, or you get an 8th seed that was almost, they were trailing with 2 minutes left in a play-in game to the Chicago Bulls, and they somehow dig themselves out of that and go all the way to a title. That's a hell of a storyline too. I think it's just lazy if you can't find the intriguing storylines. Hell, correct. Mike Malone is one of the best quotes in the NBA right now.
Awesome. He's a little sassy. I love that. I hope whoever the Suns' next head coach is has a little bit of sass to them as well.
We're not going to have one. I think they're just going to let AI coach the team. Not Allen Iverson. Artificial intelligence. What should we do here? Here's the situation. What should we do?
This is what you should do. I would set a screen for Devin Booker.
Let Kevin Durant shoot. Well, that's already better than Monty did.
Too soon.
He let him shoot. He just missed a lot of shots.
All right, guys, if you are looking for something fun to tip off your weekend tomorrow, we have you covered. Come hang out with us at the BetMGM Sportsbook at State Farm Stadium. All the shows here at PHNX will be live from the Sportsbook tomorrow, starting at around, 10 a.m.-ish?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be out there from 10 a.m. to about 9 p.m.,
Mhm.
something like that.
Who
So
knows? There might even be an emergency pod.
pretty much all day long. So come hang out with us whenever you can pop in, whether it's for lunch or
Get
happy
ready, Emma.
hour.
That's happening.
Or if you want to join us for our Knockout Nights Cornhole League, that starts at 7 p.m. tomorrow, again, at the BetMGM Sportsbook out at State Farm Stadium. It's going to be a blast. And also, if you have not signed up for BetMGM yet, make sure you do that and use that bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live, but for our Arizona audience, you will get up to $100 in bonus bets on your first wager with BetMGM. Again, just make sure you use that bonus code PHNX. You can check out the show notes for full details, and now you can listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
Also, make sure you stop at Circle K on your way out to the BetMGM Sportsbook. You can fill up your tank with some fantastic gas. You can pick up an iced coffee for just $1.89. Or if you're into Polar Pops more than coffee, you can get a Polar Pop as well. They also have Monsters. They've got Red Bulls. They've got Fast Twitch. All kinds of great snacks, great drinks are at Circle K. Make sure you're not missing out on all this great stuff. And right now, if you text PHNX to 31310, to join their SMS subscriber club, you're going to get a buy one, get one free offer on 32-ounce Polar Pops. Love a good deal. Love a coupon. So head to circlek.com/store-locator to find Circle K's near you.
Can I make one request on the Circle K front? I do not want to see Derek Montilla, my gas pump, one more time. Can we switch it up, please?
I've seen Leah. I've seen Lindsay. I've seen Derek.
I see Derek every damn time.
Derek's haunting you. He's just following you around. I have gotten so many messages from people being like, yo, why did you just tell me to go get a Polar Pop from Circle K? And my response to every single one of them, I'm like, but did you get a Polar Pop,
Did you
though?
listen?
And it's like 50-50 split. Some of them are like, well, yeah, duh, you told me to. And the others are like, no, not today. I was like, well, you look. You're
Only her cult members were like, yes, I did. You told me to.
Also regarding the AI that we just talked about, Hello had a good comment. He said, Chat GBT saying, stop using Shabbat.
Damn it.
Oh my goodness gracious. All right. Well, since we're already talking about Coach GBT, as Drew in the chat said earlier, let's talk about coaching updates. So we did mention yesterday on the show that the Detroit Pistons were targeting Monty Williams. Well, apparently, reportedly, it is official. Monty Williams has accepted a huge chunk of change to become the new head coach of the Detroit Pistons. It's being reported that it is a 6-year, $72 million deal that could potentially reach $100 million with all the incentives that are built in. Like, go get your money, Monty.
Hopefully, winning it all isn't one of those incentives because he's never hitting $100 million if it is.
Yes.
Oh my God.
What?
$78.5 million is a lot of cheddar.
Is that what it is now?
Yeah,
78?
yeah. And
Okay.
78.5.
It's going to average
Okay.
over $13 million a year, making him the highest paid coach in the NBA. Again, great if you can get it, for sure. I know we have some thoughts on this, which we'll get to later on. But listen, tremendous coach. And I think for what that franchise needs, he would be the perfect candidate to come in there and do exactly what he did here under this for this franchise. So congratulations to him. I think he deserves that. I listen, if you're going to take $78.5 million to go to Detroit, hey, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, he's going to change the hat to well paid is better than well said. But look, he's the right hire for Detroit. They're in a very similar, position to where the Suns were when they were looking at hiring Monty. Young team trying to figure out how to get out of the the perpetual cycle of a rebuild, trying to build a culture and build an identity. I think he will do a very good job at that because that's who he is. He's very good at doing that. And can he go beyond that? Can he turn them into a champion? I don't know, but I think what he will do is give them an unbelievable foundation to move on. One thing he's going to have to do better than he did here, though, is develop young talent. You know, and you could say he helped Mikhail, he helped Cam. There were other guys that he didn't, but they're going to have to maximize the young talent there in Detroit to see success at the rate that he did here in Phoenix.
Yeah, great for Monty Williams. Happy for him. It's the largest head coaching deal in NBA history. So congrats to him. And like I said on yesterday's show, a team like Detroit is going to have to overpay. They're going to have to overstep to secure a talent like that because Monty was the best coaching candidate on the market. And he arguably was when Nick was still on the market. Nick Nurse was still on the market. Like, he's a really good coach, and not just for a rebuild, because I feel like he's getting put in this box of like, oh, he's a culture guy. He's a, happy players coach kind of guy. He's a good coach too. Like, he won the most games in the NBA over the last 3 seasons. And yeah, you can say Devin Booker, Chris Paul, the talent that he had played a part in that. But like, he had that young talent from the start, and so did a couple of other coaches that were here, and they didn't do shit with it. So the idea that he's not good at developing young talent, I push back on that very strongly. I think you can look at DA, and that relationship changed over the last year for the worse. But outside of that, like, Mikhail was becoming who he has been in Brooklyn before he got traded there. Cam Johnson. Cam Payne was out of the league before Monty Williams brought him into the bubble. And even Devin Booker, to a degree, grew under Monty's tutelage these last few years. So I think he's like the perfect man for that hire. And I'm happy for him, like, and for Detroit. It would have been nicer if they got that #1 pick, like I said, but I'm kind of excited to watch this team now because they got Cade Cunningham, they got Jaden Ivey, they have some young talent like Jalen Duren, so it's going to be fun to watch them from afar.
Look, I think they'll be fighting for the play-in next year.
They could very well be.
Monty will put those things in place that they need to do. I'm sure he'll push to sign some veterans with the huge amount of cap space that Detroit has.
Over $40 million.
Yeah, like, look, I make jokes about Monty not winning it all here and everything. We had our issues with rotational stuff, but there's no denying Monty Williams is a good coach and found a way to get more out of these guys than anybody. I mean, there's no doubt in that, and I think he'll have success in Detroit overall. So,
I'm not going to disagree with his ability to get players to a certain level. But again, like, you're looking, he's had 2 coaching opportunities before, okay, with the Suns and the Pelicans. And there was a certain threshold that he couldn't get past. Right. And so you're hoping, if you're Detroit, that he's going to be able to learn from those 2 instances, and you're going to be able to add the kind of talent necessary to really help enhance what this young group of individuals needs and veteran leadership and things of that nature to be able to take you over the top, get to the playoffs, and make some and cause some damage. And so I can't sit here, because I've seen it now twice in a row, and say that, like, he will surefire take the Pistons to a championship contender in the next 3 or 4 years. No, I just don't know, because one of the things that worked in the Suns' favor is that they had that bubble run, which I thought really spurred things forward a little quicker than normal.
Which was a very unique situation.
A very unique situation. And then being able to get Chris Paul in that trade. And Chris Paul, to me, is the one that really set the foundation for how they were going to move forward and really teach and show these guys what it takes to get to that next level. And him and Monty did it great together. But then after that championship season, things didn't really get back to that form, and you're hoping that he learned from those lessons. I'm sure he sat on the farm in the last couple weeks and said, "Man, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that. And if I got another opportunity, this is what I'm going to do." Because I think we would all do that. Anytime we leave a job or we have some responsibility in some area, we wish we would have done this, or we wish we would have done that. And so hopefully he gets to succeed in Detroit. I'm glad he's in the Eastern Conference, so I don't really have anything to worry about unless we get to the finals. And much success to him.
Did you guys see the crazy irrational fear, though, that kind of came out of this was people were like, well, how much did Devin like Monty? And it is Detroit. He's a Michigan guy. Oh my gosh. So then I'm like, why are we wired like this as Phoenix Suns
I'm not.
fans?
I'm not. I didn't even think about
we're
that.
not, but like I saw that on Twitter. I'm like, really? This is where we're going?
There's always someone out there who will make a connection that's just wild that we did not see coming.
The entire NBA is 6 degrees of separation. So,
I mean, we did it back in the day too, though. Like, oh, D'Lo and Cat are Book's BFFs. Like, of course he's gonna ask to go play with them if they won't come here. And
nobody wants to go to Minnesota.
That shit. You know what I mean? So
I just the whole thing. You know the meme from Community where Donald Glover walks in with the pizza boxes and the whole thing's on fire and it's the darkest timeline. That seems to be where every Suns fan, a bunch of Suns fans go anytime something seems like it could go off the rails. It's like, oh shit, the room's burning again.
It's because people listen, as Suns fans, you have to rewire your brain and understand that this is as much a destination as any other NBA city. Fuck what LA fans want to tell you. Fuck what New York fans want to tell you, or Miami, or any other NBA city. Phoenix is a destination, and because of the ownership and the penchant for that Matt Ishbia has shown to be able to put money into this team and do things that require or that enhance the experience for not only the fans but the players. This is a destination. Players are going to want. That's why we're in the rumors right now. James Harden, Kyrie Irving, like you name it, we're a destination now. Rewire the brain. People want to come here and accept that.
Yeah, and anybody saying, oh, well, the Suns are going to have to pay big money now because Detroit did. Just because somebody spends a lot of money on a coach doesn't mean you need to just go out there and do it because it's become the trend. Find the guy you want, pay what it's going to take, and don't worry about what's going on in Detroit.
Right. And Detroit had to quote unquote overpay because they're Detroit and because they're a young team on a rebuild that is trying to convince a coach not to take a year off and to take on yet another rebuild. Like you have to pony up some extra dough. So
right, because weren't there reports saying that the initial offer was like 20% less than what this is, that they bumped it up a certain percentage, 10 to 20%?
Yeah,
because he had basically said, "I think I'm going to take a year," sort of a thing.
Yeah, they were looking in the $10 million a year range at the start, I think. So.
Monty's son now knows what he's worth because wasn't the rumor Monty wanted to take the year off to go watch his son play hoops? Yeah. He's like, I guess $100 million's more than I'm worth right now.
Damn.
Listen, with the $100 million, he could just hire a private jet to fly back and forth and still watch his son play basketball. You know what I mean?
They flew him out on a private jet to recruit him. So
every dad has a price, is what it means.
All right, so a couple little nuggets of information here. I know we did talk about if Monty took a job, does that mean the Suns are off the hook for paying him? Gambo reported that there was an offset in Monty Williams' contract with the Suns, so the Suns are not responsible anymore for paying the remaining money left on his contract.
As first reported by Saul Bookman yesterday on the PHNX Suns show.
Which is great.
Reported and guessing are two different things.
Freeing up some money. Not that Matt Ishbia is probably too worried about it, but it still just makes sense.
That's my thing is like people were celebrating this like it's some win for the Suns. Like, what does it matter? It's not your money. There's no salary cap for coaches. Who gives a fuck?
The reason why people are celebrating this as a win is because we still do not realize how deep Ishbia's pockets are. Like, we know they're deep. We don't realize how deep they are until we see it in play because we've had an ownership that had very short pockets. Also, sorry about the screaming. Apparently something crazy with the Diamondbacks is happening right now.
They did. The Diamondbacks just walked off.
Yeah. And they're on a live watch along.
Yay!
What were we talking about? Ishbia's deep pockets. That's right. Yeah. Look, I mean, what is everybody excited that now we can afford Kevin Young because you're not paying Monty Williams?
Right.
Also, we got a super chat from Libertarian Sasquatch that Monty, take your son-in-law with you, please. Which, of course, those jokes have been popping off since this news broke. Everyone is asking for Monty to take Landry Shamet with him to Detroit.
You guys are unrelentless.
Poor Landry Shamet.
You're relentless.
I'm sorry. I'm just completely distracted right now.
All right. Well, let me see if I can bring us back into this conversation a little bit, because one of the concerns now that I think actually affects the Suns in this situation of Monty accepting this job is the current coaching staff of the Phoenix Suns, right? Because Monty was the only one that had been fired that we know about from the coaching staff of last season, which means there are quite a few good people still in that building. If the Suns do end up hiring Kevin Young, I would assume he would probably like to keep at least some of them. Does this now create a bidding war or a I got dibs as far as those type of guys? Like we're talking about like Mark Bryant and things like that. Coaches that have been very instrumental in the Suns over the last couple of years that are very highly regarded in the league of anybody who's worked with them. So that's another thing that we're going to have to add to the list of things to take care of now.
If Kevin Young's your guy, now just make the move so you can retain guys that you want, so you can have the strongest staff possible. Enough with whatever's going on. Like, I still don't understand what this holdup is at this point. If all signs continue to point towards Kevin Young, unless there's some massive surprise. So what are you doing? Just if it's your guy, pick your guy. Unless all of a sudden Steve Kerr or Ty Lue is in the mix, but I highly doubt that. So what are we doing? Are you really looking at Doc Rivers and Frank Vogel and going, is this, you know what those guys are? You've heard their interview. Make your decision.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm not too concerned about the assistant portion of this, because you can always lure another assistant from another team that you really like too. I mean, like, listen, these guys, yeah, they have contracts, but you see it all the time. Other coaches get promoted to other opportunities at different organizations and they move around. And Kevin Young, for all we know, has relationships. I mean, hell, he was in a couple different spots before coming to Phoenix. So I'm not so worried about the staff as it is. There might be a couple guys that he wants to keep over, but I'm not rushing to make the head coach hire to make sure I can prevent other guys from leaving for other opportunities. If they want to leave for other opportunities.
You need to rush by any means. I'm just saying it now creates as if Monty had chosen to take a year off. This situation it doesn't exist. But now that Monty is a head coach at another place, now it does exist, where he may want to bring some of those guys along with him. And those guys could very well be very important pieces of the puzzle.
While true, I mean, there's nothing to say that Nick Nurse in Philadelphia couldn't poach, Mark Bryant, or, all these other new head coaches in other spots would poach some of these guys, because they do have a rep for being a good franchise right now and a good program, and they did a good job. So I'm not really concerned about Monty poaching. Like, if the guys want to go, they go.
But you're not rushing at this point. I mean, shit, the guy you fired has been hired already. Like, you're not rushing at this point. If these three guys we've heard reported are your choices, you finished interviewing them almost a week ago.
Yeah.
You're not rushing. You're just dragging your feet at this point.
I think they are waiting for something.
They've got to be at this point.
At this point, I really hope so. Even if it was just like, hey, we wanted to wait to see, and that's what gets reported. Because if you're just over here twiddling your thumbs because you can't decide, that's a bad look, in my opinion.
Matt Ishbia, I don't think he's ever twiddled his thumbs in his life, unless it's to wait for something to happen.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't seem like the twiddling his thumbs type. So I think they're either waiting for maybe the Ty Lue thing, or they're waiting because the NBA frowns upon the whole head coaching thing during the finals being announced. I don't know what it is.
But even then, like, you didn't know yesterday?
2 days ago, yeah. Like,
I mean, they could already know. It just might not be public knowledge that we know yet. I don't know. But
how do you know they know we know?
Exactly.
Hold on, I have the answer.
No.
IT and James Jones are playing the longest game of horse, and whoever wins gets their candidate. Maybe that's what's going on.
Props to Ishbia if he's still in that game, because
I said JJ and IT.
JJ, okay.
Matt was out in round one.
Yeah,
all right?
he lost the first time around.
I was gonna say props. He took a charge from Jokic. He's playing IT and horse. That's impressive. No, like, I would be interested, though, to the point about the assistants possibly being poached by Monty now. I would be really interested whether Monty goes after Mark Bryant, A, because he's got a young big in Jalen Durant over there in Detroit, and B, if him leaving hints at anything or plays a role at all in DA's happiness here, because Mark Bryant is DA's like a designated assistant coach. He's the designated assistant coach for all the big men. Mm-hmm. They all have glowing things to say about him as a person, as a coach. And so I would be interested if Mark Bryant leaves for Detroit, like, does that change DA's relationship with the franchise? Is he still as happy here? Who do they bring in to coach the big men now? Can they get more out of DA in terms of maybe post moves or things like that? Like, I would be fascinated to see what the kind of chain reaction is if that's the case. And if he stays here, like what does that lead to next season for DA? Because we've heard from DA talking about, wanting to shoot threes. He mentioned it at his exit interviews again this year, and it hasn't really come into being. We've been talking about how he needs to add a dribble to his arsenal, and people are always quick to assign the blame to Monty that he didn't develop or that he stunted his growth, even though he's been more efficient since Monty came in charge, and he just averaged a near career high 18 points, which was second only to his career high he averaged in Monty's first year here. So I don't get that complaint at all. But I am curious, if Monty poaches a guy like Mark Bryant, how do you address that? And does it suggest anything about DA's future here? Because he is kind of the one central trade piece that we keep coming back to in terms of revamping the roster this summer.
But I mean, at this point, outside of James Jones, and obviously Devin, who does he really even have a relationship with in the organization? Like, I don't know who's left to have beef. The disgraced former owner's gone. Matt Ishbia has been here not long enough to really form a relationship. Monty's gone, who you had friction with. I mean, there is a chance you could try to have a fresh start here. And if Bryant's gone, but you bring in somebody else, that, like you're saying, that could help. I mean, give Hakeem a call. Let's see if he wants to coach DA for a little while. But look, it's going to be very intriguing how it plays out and who becomes these assistants and how it does impact.
I will say I came to a realization this morning.
Yes.
You guys want to hear it?
Sure.
What's that?
I am going to say that they are not going to trade DA. I feel like whoever they get, one of the primary questions that they're going to have and look for in a candidate is, how can you get more out of this guy's potential? Because I don't think that they're going to get what they want out on the market in order to really satisfy trading DeAndre Ayton. So it's just a gut feeling that I just don't feel like DA is going to leave.
The problem is you have to trade Chris Paul or DA.
I think Chris Paul will be the guy out.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to deal at least one of them to have any flexibility to do anything with this roster. It's going to be very intriguing. And I think the coaching pick does have a big impact on that and where they go. So
I would be interested because you can't have both of those $30 million contracts on your books heading into next season, obviously, because that really hamstrings what you're able to do from a roster building standpoint. And I think if you go to KD and Book and ask which one of these two you would prefer to trade, I don't know. I don't know which one they would say, but I think we have a pretty strong inkling of which way they would.
It's a tough question to ask. Which one of these two do you want in the playoffs? One isn't healthy for the playoffs. One doesn't show up for the playoffs.
But they don't think that way.
How? I know.
They don't think that. And one didn't show up for the playoffs. He was on the court, but he didn't show up. So
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
That was a joke.
Gotcha. And one is off the books next year too. So
yeah,
it's true.
Well, we shall see. HM in the chat said Lindsay be hella aggressive. LOL. Yes, I think that means that I could use some OG's brands, specifically the Happy Balance brand, because it'll make me a little less aggressive, a little bit happier,
So
right?
sassy.
The good balance. I have been really sassy this week.
it's all right.
I'm not mad at it, to be completely honest with you. It's just an observation.
I don't think any
But
of
if
us
you
mind.
feel like you've been too sassy or you're a little too aggressive, maybe take a load off with a little bit of OGs.
OGs.
That's all sassy right there.
That's my whole
sassy Saul.
The couple of cool things that are happening over at OG's Brands. They now have mixed bags, which means you can get all the fruits and all the cream flavors in one bag. So you kind of get a little treat each time. You get to pick which one you'd like instead of committing to just one flavor of OG's, which is top notch. Also, the pink lemonade flavor is dropping on June 21st. So that is something to look forward to. You can check out OG's online at ogsbrands.com and on Instagram at ogsbrands. You can also find their products at your local dispensary, but you must be 21 years or older to purchase. All right, this next segment. is going to be brought to you by our friends over at Shady Rays. Shady Rays, they've got gear that is built to last, premium polarized shades. If you don't love your Shady Rays, you can exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There is no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com. Use code PHNX for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. We're about to throw some shade. We each have different people or things that we're throwing shade at today, but this will be really fun. Espo, I think you should start us off. Who are you throwing shade at?
I have 2.
Okay.
You want me to throw some shade at ESPN or Monty first?
Oh,
Whichever
boy.
one.
ESPN.
ESPN first. All right. I was on social today and saw this video that our friends at ESPN put out, and I don't understand what the hell this is. First, you got Jokic throwing an animated thing on the Suns court. Then he's driving Devin Booker's car, and he literally, while speeding down the freeway, kicks the Suns gorilla out of the car. What did Go do to you? All right, Jokic? Absolutely nothing. You treat our owner like that, and then this digital version of you from ESPN decides to kill our mascot in a cartoon? I'm not okay with this, and there will be something that you have to pay for in the future, Jokic.
Okay.
Is that another Martin Luther King quote?
It will be something you have to pay for.
Listen,
Yes.
Loki, I think this is hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. He didn't kick him out of the car. It was an ejection button.
I don't care.
That's like some Fast and Furious stuff
Oh,
right
come
there.
on.
This is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
I know
I'm
Lin-
sorry. I'm sorry.
Lindsay thinks murdering Go is hilarious.
He's fine.
He's
He's just got a
fine.
couple scratches, maybe a bruise. He's fine.
I didn't mind what the video was depicting. I just thought it was lame as hell and like weird.
You
The
don't like
whole
game
video was a
animation
little
was
bit
weird.
weird, but I
Yeah.
think that's what's funny about it is that it was so like, what? You just kind of have to laugh.
The weirdest thing, we didn't have the audio, but Jokic throws this gold L at center court in Phoenix and goes, pick it up. I'm like, what is this? What GameCube designer decided to put this together and tracked it like that? All right?
Yeah.
God, you're Disney. You have animators on staff. What was that crap?
I still think it's funny.
Oh.
All right.
And he stole Book's car. That's Book's car.
That's right.
So Grand Theft Auto and murdering a gorilla.
Oh my
This
god.
guy is such a drama queen.
To be fair, cool dude in the chat says he should have never gotten in the car with Joker to begin with.
It's true.
That's
He was
facts.
forced into it.
Was he kidnapped?
He
Go,
was
you
ki-
should have known
He was
better.
gorilla napped.
Oh,
All right. Gerald,
what?
would you like to throw some shade at anybody today?
No, not really.
I got
Oh,
one.
Gerald's like, I'm good. I'm pass on
good.
this one.
So I'm gonna. I mean, I had the same one Espo had as the secondary one. So Monty, listen, it's not really at Monty. It's really at Detroit because there was nobody else in the mix, and the fact that they gave this guy 78.
They were bidding against themselves.
I mean,
Taking my shades
that's a
off for
lot
this.
of that's a lot of coin for a good coach, but to be the highest paid coach in the NBA, I think that was just
You're Detroit. What else are you gonna
it was
do?
negligent.
No, negligent. Stop
I mean,
it.
that's a lot of money.
This is my shade.
Stop it.
If you want to throw
All right,
shade,
I'm gonna throw shade on Saul's take just now. Because
there you go.
what the hell are
Somebody
you
got the
talking?
assignment.
You are the Detroit Pistons. You won like a league worst 17 games, and you're going after the best head coach that's available on the market.
They are the 3-time world champions.
What? The win, like back in 2004, that was 20 years ago almost.
Well, I'm just
You haven't
saying.
been relevant for 20 years. You're going after the reigning head coach of the year from last season. You're going after a guy who's won more games than anybody the last 3 years. And you're trying to convince him not only to, avoid taking a year off, but also turn down like $7 million a year. So you have to add some extra cash on top of it. It makes sense to me. He's a good coach. Like, I know that he reached his ceiling with us here, but to say that he's overpaid, it's only because Detroit has to pay a premium if they want a premium head coach, and that's what they did.
I will say one of my favorite tweets in response to Shams tweeting this out last night was somebody goes, 6 years in this economy? And I laughed. I'm not going to lie. It really, because my initial response when I saw it, I was like, damn, 6 years?
Mhm.
That's a
And
legit
it can be 8.
contract. Yeah.
It can be up to 8.
Like, shout out to Monty. That's That's insane. That's a
Joe
good
money.
get for him. Absolutely. I'm going to throw shade at a couple of people here. First, every single person on Twitter who lost their minds about Josh Hart asking if anyone has ever tasted their significant other's breast milk. New parents, right? We're talking, and everyone literally lost their minds over this. And I'm like, calm down. We know what you do. Calm down. Okay.
It's not the thought. It's the, why are you tweeting the thought?
Why do we tweet a lot of the things we tweet,
exactly,
Espo? We
but-
tweet all of the intrusive and invasive thoughts that we have into the world these days. It's 2023. That's what we do.
I do not.
As a society. I'm speaking as a whole.
Society.
As a society.
Lindsay's got to keep that engagement rate
I can
up, all
always throw
right?
it back to her. She's like, we. I'm like, do you? Oh.
I thought that was so funny. Like, that was one of my favorite, 2-hour blocks on Twitter in the last week. Hilarious. Like, CJ McCollum getting in on the action. You know he's tried it with that response that he had. And then a couple of the other guys just being way too dramatic and being like, no, but for real, delete my number. I can't believe you tweeted
Jalen
this.
Brunson.
All this kind of shenanigans. I thought it was hilarious.
It's entertaining. It's premium off-season content.
Great
We are
content.
in the off-season.
Love it. And then I'm also going to throw shade at Mark Cuban.
Okay. Yeah.
Mark Cuban, undercover cop. Are you freaking for real asking people to snitch on themselves for watching Game 7 of Heat and Celtics on a pirated stream? Sir, this is a Wendy's. Can we not? I was like, why are you asking people this right now? What is
Yeah.
happening? But the jokes that everyone got off about that tweet, fantastic content.
That's pretty great.
All right.
So.
You want my Monty take?
Yes.
Monty Williams was overpaid by the Detroit Pistons.
Mhm.
Lindsay, you know what I'm like.
How overpaid was he?
Monty
Sorry.
Williams was so overpaid, the Democrats and Republicans had to agree to raise the debt ceiling just so the Pistons could afford it.
Oh,
Monty Williams was so overpaid.
How overpaid was he?
Monty Williams was so overpaid he can now buy the entirety of downtown Detroit and still have $5 million per year left over.
Oh,
I think that's a Detroit problem.
Monty Williams was so overpaid.
How?
I'm not
I'll do it
doing
in
it.
joke.
Oh,
How
gosh.
overpaid was he?
Monty Williams was so overpaid that he's making more a year now than the 3 head coaches that the Suns had before him combined. That's how overpaid he is. And that's not a joke. That's the damn truth.
He was better than all 3 of them combined.
This is true.
True.
He was 3 times
True.
better than
That's
all
funny
of
how that math works, huh?
That's true. All right. Wow.
You may not think this, but I promise you we are all actually sober today, but we could probably use a beer after this show.
Yeah.
And the only place in town to get a really good beer is our friends over at Four Peaks. Whether you stop at the grocery store on your way home from work and pick up some of their fantastic beer, or you stop into the Four Peaks pub down in Tempe to have some beer and some really great food, whatever it is, just make sure when you are watching sports that you have a Four Peaks in hand, because you can't have one without the other. Also, make sure you check them out on social at Four Peaks Brew or at Four Peaks Pub to keep up with the latest at Arizona's hometown brewery. You do have to be 21 years or older to drink Four Peaks, and we ask that you drink responsibly.
Folks, we have this cool thing. It's called the Die Hard box. You get it when you sign up for our beautiful membership. You can see this other beautiful box on the table. It opens up and you get a nice card and a nice little welcome, and you get your t-shirt that you get to pick out from our locker. Check it out. Everybody gets one that's a Die Hard. And if you've already been a Die Hard for this whole time, once you renew, you get another box, which is pretty dope and it's pretty cool. So check it out. And it comes with a fancy card. And just remember, the Die Hard card, don't leave home without it. I loved it.
I hated it. That felt like
He said I hated
Also,
it.
this was like the Ted Lasso scene all over
Also,
again.
I totally held the card upside down.
Lindsay had it backwards.
No, backwards is fine. Backwards is fine.
I mean, both sides are cute.
yeah, it's pretty cool. It's this cool little
Whatever,
card.
one side works.
Like, it's pretty dope. It has your name on it, and it tells you your PHNX, and you get a digital version of it, so it's pretty dope.
I love the guy in the chat who's like, what's with these cheesy jokes? I'm like, you're obviously new here. I mean, this is the bit. All right. I don't got much else. All right.
We
I
just said a
mean-
rehearsed line together live
Yeah.
on the air.
I will say this is probably one of the more planned ahead kind of some of these jokes because you were like, let's do this thing with the diehards. And Espo was like, hey, you guys remember that? How big is it? Or whatever thing from whatever show you got. Don't even. You know what I'm talking about. Y'all are literally so
It's like,
childish.
how old
I
is
can't.
Emma's asking what it
And
is.
she's 21 years old. She's childish, and so are you. It's you and Emma. Emma and Saul are literally the worst duo of all time.
My
They
father
won't turn
I like to-
anything dirty.
I like to think we're
Anything.
dynamic. Gerald even responded to it. It's
I
not
did.
just me.
It
my
wasn't just
father
him that
asked me
time.
not to engage in these jokes anymore, so I'm listening to Dad. Happy Father's Day, Dad.
Hello goes, I didn't think y'all planned things. Well, this is what happens when we try to plan things. So
they get scrapped.
now we know better.
All right.
Oh man.
Last thing we got for you guys today, we did get a really cool update from Kevin Durant and Nike. They do have a lifetime partnership, and they just launched the KD 15 50 years of hip hop. This shoe is actually, I really like it. What do you guys think about this shoe?
I like it too, and you can't even see on the other side. It's got that little like silver microphone that's dangling from one of the shoes. I like it a lot. I like what the meaning behind it as well. KD has always been a guy that's very invested in music and in history, and in this case, the history of hip hop. So if you read the article that he tweeted out explaining the idea behind the shoe and his love of music, it's a pretty cool collaboration that they're doing.
Yeah, I loved everything about it, except couldn't they have gotten a 35 on the heel, not the 7? Wasn't?
Well, no, because it's a classic shoe. So they have it in other versions too.
Do they?
So they have the Nike Dunk High Retro Premium SE Classics. You can get those now too, and I actually like those better than the KD shoes. But they're doing them across the board, and I think it's pretty dope.
But the 7 on the KD, wasn't that in reference to Brooklyn? His 7? I thought that his number was on the heel, and that was my only
I don't know.
only
But
beef on it.
these
Yeah.
are the other versions. of them.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
those are nicer. Yeah.
I don't know. This article is also pretty interesting too, because he pointed to the connections around celebrating hip hop's history and how they're intertwined within Nike and the sneaker culture. And I know I've heard this before, but I guess I just kind of forgot because it was shared a while ago that Kevin Durant has a recording studio in his house, and he does it for fun. So like, I know we've heard this before, but I wonder if at some point in time we'll actually get any music from KD.
KD's Charles Barkley diss track. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
We shouldn't have gone down this road.
I wasn't
Tell me
trying
how
to
my
go
donut
there,
tastes, Saya.
but I do think it's fascinating that Kevin Durant actually does have a passion for understanding music and all of the elements that go into it. You can see that from this article. I just think it would be interesting. I'm curious to see if we ever hear anything from Kevin Durant on the music side of things. Maybe after his career is over.
He's too smart to be releasing tracks during his playing career, I feel like, because he knows the reaction that he gets when he does pretty much anything.
Yeah.
But it was cool to learn that he has like a studio in his house and that type of thing. So maybe one day.
I think LeBron also has a studio in his house, but
Does he?
again, they just have it to have it.
So-
And it's also to attract other people to their house as well. Let's not forget that. There's a lot of hip hop artists and just artists in general like to hang out. They run in the same circles, and so being able to lay down a beat at a party because you're like, oh man, I got this beat in my head, let's go. It's definitely something that they do.
Yeah.
Same reason I got the studio at the house in the walk-in closet. You want to come over and drop a beat, do a podcast, talk to yourself, scream in a soundproof room? I got you covered.
We can even change the color of the lights to whatever it is that you're.
We heard the first beat dropped for Sticks Kids. I don't know if we want another one.
His next
beat is gonna have Dr. Martin
Luther King in the background giving his
Oh,
As the great man said,
You know,
Dr.
darkness.
King
As
is
the great-
here.
As the great rapper Dr. Dre said, I got nothing. All right?
Well, if you like these shoes, you can get them right now. They have released at retail for $150. So snag them up if you like them.
I'm
I
saving
think
up
they're
for the
cool.
book ones.
Which hopefully we get those this year too. Maybe around Christmas time. Was it this year Christmas time or next spring?
No, they had originally said next spring, but they moved it up because I'm guessing some of the other issues they're having with some of their signature athletes. They kind of want to get a new one in there and move on. So.
All All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We appreciate you. Thanks for putting up with all of our shenanigans today. We promise we'll try to be better tomorrow. Until then, you can follow the show on Twitter at PHNX_Suns. You can follow me at Lindsay Smith AZ. You can follow Saul at Saul_Bookman. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget. And of course, you can follow Espo at Espo. Espo, take us home.
I'm never trying to class this joint up again. Nobody appreciates it. Ahoy, hoy.
Style is retro. Tell the Phoenix Metro. Megas in control and he ain't never gonna let go. PHNX though. Lindsay, Gerald, Espo. Saw past the ball. We here to turn up the tempo. Got to understand me. I'll always rep the family.